Hey, it's Anthony from the Beta Network here, and in today's video, I'll help you answer the question, should you play House of Ashes? Before we start, just quickly, make sure you subscribe for our weekly reviews and to help us hit 2,000 subs. Thanks guys, on to the video. Set at the start of the Iraq War in 2003, House of Ashes follows an American Special Forces group on a dangerous mission that has them closing in on an area containing several supposed weapons of mass destruction. A few short moments later, they capture some nearby townsfolk for a peaceful intel chat, but the opposing soldiers begin fighting back, resulting in the ground beneath each combatant collapsing into an ancient Sumerian temple. Cue the horror. The five main cast members, led by none other than High School Musical's Ashley Tisdale, yes, the one that screams like a human siren, all perform their roles quite well. Although I don't know why Ashley's character Rachel has this weird fisheye thing going on. I don't know. But anyway, our protagonists all play off of each other with such ease and really come across as likable and endearing characters. Plus, fans of the series might just pick up on a familiar face or two. However, even as the cast isn't as fleshed out as they could be, you'll still legitimately want these guys to survive until the end, especially for banter like this.
I think if his dance partner stepped on his foot, it'd be an instant off with her head.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Maybe when we're done, I'll let you spin me around a little.
As long as you don't step on my foot.
When it comes to the main story, it's actually not that interesting. Compared to last year's entry, Little Hope, which had an extremely compelling narrative arc and flow, House of Ashes ultimately feels like a noticeable downgrade. It's not Man of Medan levels of bad, but it just doesn't have much of a lasting impact. The story is simply too rushed, too basic, and too cliché to warrant repeat playthroughs. It is intriguing how sometimes intentionally failing certain QTEs in House of Ashes can lead to a variety of different outcomes. Although even with the series' staple branching pathways and the Curator's Cut edition, which further expands the narrative, you can't help but feel like the story is somewhat lacking. That all being said, a handful of new gameplay aspects, like being able to change difficulty at any time, choosing exactly how and when QTE prompts appear, and a cross-gen connectivity feature between the PS4 and PS5 versions for shared story are all welcome additions. It was genuinely leaps and bounds more entertaining trekking through the game on PS4 with fellow TBN horror fan Dylan on PS5, and it performed just as good playing solo with a variable frame rate between 30 and 60 FPS for both modes. However, there were a few technical hiccups here and there, both online and off. To name a few, every single character, without fail online, would suddenly freeze in place before picking up an item. A loading screen would casually appear mid-cutscene for no apparent reason, or occasionally the game would just straight up flub the timings for QTEs, which of course were always the important ones. I also noticed a litany of yuck-looking textures and pop-in, with a handful of blatantly repeated lines and animations for good measure. But even though these errors stuck out like your brother's stinky, smelly socks, they didn't detract too much from the fun factor overall. Since House of Ashes is mostly set underground with a distinct lack of ambient light, it is quite cool then how the player can toggle their flashlight on and off to find hidden secrets and pathways. I know how dumb that sounds said out loud, but when you couple that with a now constant 360-degree controllable camera during the on-foot sections, the literal darker areas of the game become much more intimidating. As a whole, I'd say the horror is more in line with the second half of Until Dawn than the other Dark Pictures anthology games. And it's all handled fairly well, with a gamut of varied set pieces that'll really keep the player on their toes. There's none of that repeat jump scare stuff from Little Hope either, which further helps to keep things fresh. Plus, there are over 60 unique deaths, so fans of the series can go to town here. Should you play House of Ashes? Well, for a cinematic experience that's only about 4 hours long, with an average at best narrative, and cast of characters that aren't as in-depth as the previous entry, it's honestly hard to recommend. Fans of the Dark Pictures anthology will no doubt eat this up, but for newcomers to the franchise, it might just be too high of a hurdle to jump. The horror elements are well executed, and the inclusions of a changeable difficulty and extra accessibility options are great, although a host of technical issues both online and off can't help but take the player out of the experience to a certain extent. Here's hoping the next entry in the series can deliver on all fronts. Guys, make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already, as we release videos like this each and every week. And be sure to check out thebetanetwork.net for my full written review on House of Ashes. See you guys in the next video.